Well, hello everybody. Good afternoon, or almost evening by the look of it out there. Thank you for joining our webinar today. My name is Eric Callens. I'm the tourism manager with the City of Coquitlam within the Economic Development Division. We appreciate you joining us and giving up some of your busy day to learn more about creating an online presence for your business. We cannot stress enough how important it is to have an online presence. And while it may seem intimidating to get your business online, in the long run, it'll help your current customers and potential customers learn more about your business. Even starting with a one-page site is a great place to start, and that's why we brought in Webnames.ca to work with us on getting our Coquitlam businesses online. Please don't be intimidated by technology. We always say embrace it, and it'll help you out in the long run. So before we begin, I would like to remind everyone that this webinar is being recorded. There was a privacy statement included in the invitation to this webinar. If you do not agree to the privacy statement or do not wish to participate in a recorded webinar, we ask that you please log off now. Through this pandemic, our Economic Development Division has been running a variety of campaigns and initiatives to support our local business community. These programs are under the city's broader Community Support and Recovery Plan, CSRP. This plan is multifaceted, but its main purpose is to focus on the support and recovery of Coquitlam's residents and business community. For more information on this program, please check out coquitlam.ca/CSRP. So again, thank you for attending this webinar on how to grow web traffic and make the most of your online presence. This is the second webinar in a two-part series, the first being how to plan and launch a new website for your business. These webinars are made possible through a partnership with the City of Coquitlam and Webnames.ca. I'd like to introduce Webnames.ca and their representative, Karthik Balachandar. Webnames.ca is Canada's original domain registrar and web host. Co-founded by the team that established the .ca domain for Canada, Webnames.ca has supported small and large businesses succeed online for 20 years. Our presenter today, Karthik Balachandar, is a marketing manager for Webnames.ca. Karthik is an engineer turned marketer who applies his analytical skills and over 8 years of digital marketing experience to help customers choose the products and services that work for them. You are in good hands today with Karthik. I'm also joined by my colleague, Danielle Donchev, Business Development Coordinator for the Economic Development Division. Danielle will be acting as our moderator today and monitoring the chat room for any questions. And we also have Curtis Scott online, the acting manager of Coquitlam's Economic Development Division, with us today. So before we start, just a couple housekeeping items. This webinar should take no more than 30 minutes, give or take. The recording of the webinar will be available and posted at letstalkcoquitlam.ca/business. We will send a link to you. After Karthik's presentation, we'll pause the recording for participants to ask questions. Remember, all questions are encouraged. Don't be afraid to ask a question. There are no bad questions when it comes to technology. However, if you have a question and you do not feel comfortable asking it, please follow up with one of us and we will answer it promptly. As mentioned, the following webinar today we will send a follow-up email to all participants with the presentation slides and further information on how to start creating your website with Webnames.ca. Finally, just a reminder, this webinar is being recorded. All attendees will be muted during this presentation unless you click on the raise hand icon to ask a question. There will be a question and answer period at the end of the presentation, which will not be recorded, so participants can make inquiries anonymously. To ask questions, you can either raise your hand to request to be unmuted, or you may comment in the chat. If you have questions throughout the presentation, our moderator, Danielle, will be monitoring the chat feature and will try to answer your questions there throughout. If she's not able to answer your question throughout the chat, your question will be brought up during the Q&A period at the end of the presentation. So at this time, I'm done. We're going to hand the webinar over to Karthik from Webnames.ca to begin the presentation. We really hope you enjoy it.
Everyone. Thank you, Eric, for the kind introduction, and thanks to Danielle, Curtis, and the team at City of Coquitlam. It's great to be here and following our first part of this webinar. Today, we're going to be looking at how you can get more traffic to your website, just the basics and the tricks that have made me a successful digital marketer. Next slide, please. Yeah, before we dive right in, I'd just like to give a little background to who we are as Webnames.ca. We are Canada's first .ca domain name registrar. We offer several domain name extensions like .ca, .com, .org, and over 600 such extensions, web hosting, SSL, anything you basically need to get your website built, you're likely to find with Webnames. We are 100% Canadian. We are a woman-owned and women-led business. And we are proud to support a lot of causes and communities such as women in science and technology. And we are located right here in Vancouver. And there's a link that we will be speaking and referring back to several slides on this deck. That link is clickable as well. And you should be able to do that on the slide that is circulated on the follow-up email. We'll get right into it. Next slide, please. So what you can expect today. I'll try and keep today's presentation a little brief, although the slides themselves might contain a little more detail than what I'm going to talk about. The idea is to get people familiar with the various ways you can attract traffic to your website. And before that, how you can get started on building your free .ca website with Webnames. But there's a lot more detail that you can get by following some of the links we placed on the slides to follow. So you will get a framework today on how you can tackle some of the critical questions, like what kind of traffic does my website need? What goals do you want your business to accomplish? And what traffic metrics therefore matter? And how you can increase and what tactics you can use to increase those traffic metrics. Next slide, please. So this is some detail on the offer that we have at Webnames today. The product that we have packaged as Lightside essentially contains a one-page website builder, a .ca domain name, branded email that matches your domain name that you choose to register, and HTTPS security for the website that you're building. This one-page website builder, it contains 5 different mobile-ready templates that you can select from, and it is completely drag and drop to build. You do not need any coding skills or programming skills, and there are no strings attached to this offer. You get this .ca domain name and the included one-page website builder for 1 full year at no cost. No credit card information is required for you to get started. All you need to do to claim this offer is visit the link at the bottom of this slide, complete your checkout, and you don't need to enter any other information. You just need to create an account to be able to manage your domain name, and you're good to go. You will be able to sign into your website editor, and your website can be ready to launch in as little as just 1 hour. And how much would it cost to renew at the end of that 1 year? That's just going to be 50 Canadian dollars, and that will include your domain name and all of the other items that I mentioned a short while ago. Next slide, please. Yeah, and so I mentioned that there are 5 templates that our Lightside website builder contains. So here are a few screenshots of the templates. Each of these, of course, can be customized to the kind of business or the individual portfolio or the freelance consulting portfolio that you would like to build for yourself. For instance, the smallest one that resembles a LinkedIn profile could be your resume or your portfolio, whereas the restaurant one could represent a menu or a catalog of services, while the other 2 are slightly more could fit any business and for any generic consulting or product business. You will be good to go in less than 60 minutes. And once you feel like you've outgrown the functionality of this website, you have the option to upgrade to a fully functional e-commerce ready website using our WordPress website builder whenever you're ready to go that route. But there's no obligation, and that's just an option. So we really hope you consider this, and we invite you to take advantage of this offer by following the link that we've placed at several different slides on this deck, and that will be shared with you on the follow-up email to this webinar. Next slide, please. So a quick refresher on some of the topics that we covered in our previous session in this webinar series. We spoke about the need for clarity in what you want your website to do for you, the purpose, and therefore what the goals for your website should be, and how you translate those two factors into knowledge and research about your audience. Once you have all of that, the ultimate end goal of the topics we are going to cover in this presentation today is to drive and attract quality traffic. Next slide, please. To be able to attract quality traffic, we recommend two crucial steps. One is buyer personas, which gives you a way of structuring what you know about your customers, giving them fictional names and characters and attributes, such as where they might shop, where they might find news they need, what kind of preferences would they have, what kind of incomes they might, income categories might they belong to. So there are a few links on this slide which will help you build out your buyer personas for free and sort of visualize this in a way that you can print them out or even see it on your computer screen. Next slide, please. Once you have the various buyer personas, the next step would be for you to define the customer journey. The customer journey is, as you can see on this graph on the top left, it's a question of what are the opportunities that exist for you as a business to surface your brand with potential customers. Now that you know enough about your customer, thanks to the buyer persona, you can start to think about opportunities where you can maybe advertise or influence these customers where it might be relevant, which would include factors like how customers make the decision to purchase, and it could involve different online as well as offline opportunities across the different stages of their purchasing decision, such as awareness, interest, consideration, purchase, and even after purchase, it could be factors such as retention if you are in a subscriber model, and advocacy for you to capitalize on word of mouth and good customer experience. Next slide, please. Just as you're getting started with building your website, you need to know what are the outcomes you want from your website. For instance, there could, like in this case, we've laid out three different potential outcomes. Like it could be for lead generation in the form of a brochure website. It could be sales in the form of e-commerce, or it could be a software as a service or a product as a service in a subscription model. For a simple example in this case could be something like Netflix, for instance. So depending on those outcomes, that will influence the type of marketing and sales tactics that might work well for you, the number of pages you might need. For instance, if you're a brochure website and you're a really small business with a narrow target segment located in a single geography, a one-page website can work wonders. And one important factor to keep in mind is building a website is your first step to succeeding online. You need to be able to measure it and optimize it. And that requires traffic analytics and measurement, the ability to measure and analyze the traffic that you are getting to your website. Next slide, please. So there are a few tools that you can use to measure traffic. Of course, there are some that are paid, such as Oprah and Crazy Egg mentioned here, but Google Analytics is one of the most popular and free tools. Firebase is a tool from the Google stables, and it's more common for mobile app related analytics. But we strongly recommend that you choose to use Google Analytics, and you could use others if you wish to. And we're also going to be looking at what metrics inside of Google Analytics should you look at, and how you can use that to optimize the kind of campaigns you might be running to increase the traffic you get to your website. And also the choice of platform that you use to build your website. For instance, we introduced you to Lightsite, which is a product or a platform from webnames.ca, but we also support WordPress hosting, and WordPress is a content management system, CMS, that I refer to here as a platform. You might also choose to combine it with a customer relationship management tool. Some of you might be using Salesforce or HubSpot, and all of these can actually work together to give you an intelligent marketing stack. Next slide, please. So when it comes to analytics and metrics, obviously your choice of objectives and outcomes will correlate very closely with the metrics that you will choose to use. So on the left here, we have a list of objectives which are important for your business. And as a business owner, nobody knows better than you that your profitability or your revenue, your returns on investment, the number of leads you generate, or the number of customers you are able to serve. These are metrics that are very critical to you measuring the health of your business, and it works somewhat similar on the web front as well. And once you know these objectives, you can set these up within Google Analytics using functions known as goals, and you'll be able to track them using funnel visualizations and several different reports that I will be coming to in the next slide or two. So a few links that are mentioned on this particular slide will help you with accurate setup of Google Analytics. It will also help you with tracking goals and for e-commerce related tracking in case you are looking to do transactions and sell online. But one factor to keep in mind, analytics is to help you understand user behavior and for diagnosis. Just increasing these analytics metrics at a time when your sales or your revenue or your lead generation is not improving might not necessarily be a positive outcome for your business. Next slide, please. So I will be blazing through the next 2 or 3 slides because these are some of my favorite reports for the kind of business that we have at webnames.ca. They might not necessarily be the same or the most relevant ones for your business, but on these images that you see, I've kind of highlighted the ones that matter most to us. For instance, for traffic, we look at channels, which is basically source of traffic to your website. Referrals, as the name suggests, people who might have linked to you and therefore sent you some traffic. And the Google Search Console is something that we will be touching upon shortly, but it's a tool that Google provides for you to try and understand what users are searching for when they find your business on Google's search engine. Next slide, please. The next set of reports, these are the behavior reports, and as the name suggests, it helps you break down how people use your website. What pages do they follow? What is the path of their transition on your website? How long do they spend on each of these pages? Which pages do they enter most frequently through? And so on. This helps you understand which pages you need to focus on most, and maybe where you need to place your links or your buttons or your download prompts and so on. Next slide, please. Could we switch to the next slide, please? Thank you. The conversions reports, as the name suggests, when you have your goals set up, and if your goal, for instance, is e-commerce, as you see on this image, the last step outlined here is purchase. This is the funnel visualization that I was talking about, where it shows you the number of people who entered the cart, who reached the cart, and then in each step, there are people who failed to complete and proceed to the next step. So this helps you understand where the highest amount of friction in your purchase flow exists. For instance, if you're an e-commerce, but if this was a lead generation tool and your desired outcome is for someone to give you a phone call it's quite possible for you to set it up in a way where it can tell you that people came to the top part of your website, your homepage on the first screen, but they did not scroll down to the bottom, which is where you have your phone number listed. And that will be a way for you to understand that maybe you need to add a button that helps them scroll to the bottom, or you need to move your phone number and contact details further up on the page. Next slide, please. So now we're going to get to the crux of today's topic, which is what are the different ways to attract traffic to your website, and what are some tactics that could help you do that on each of these traffic channels. Next slide, please. So direct traffic, as the name suggests, this is probably the simplest, but also sometimes the most confounding of traffic channels in digital marketing, simply because it acts as a catch-all. When Google does not know where some traffic came from, it's going to attribute it to direct traffic. If you're talking about Google Analytics as the tool. And usually direct traffic is a result of people typing in your brand name on the website. So for instance, Webnames as a business has been around for 20 years. We have a lot of people who know about us from maybe an event like today. And if you decide to go after this event and just type in webnames.ca, I would likely see it as direct traffic from you on Google Analytics. And one thing to keep in mind that will help your chances of attracting more direct traffic is the name of your business and the domain name. For instance, if you are, I'm going to take an example, like if you are Coquitlam Landscaping, then if your domain name itself is as simple as coquitlamlandscaping.ca, that's fairly easy to remember. But if it were, for instance, including a hyphen or a number at the end, like Coquitlam-landscaping-123.ca, then that might be misconstrued, or people might just forget. And therefore, it could be difficult for you to attract direct traffic. And that's why we recommend that you choose the shortest domain name and the most easy to remember domain name that you can afford. And one of the most common drivers for direct traffic is great word of mouth and great service quality, because people remember great service. And you might be familiar with this, where a happy customer is very happy to recommend your services to someone else in their network. And that's how you might get more customers. And the same does work online as well. One last factor that can help your direct traffic, you might be an active participant in online forums or communities, such as on Facebook or on Reddit. It's common to see some people spamming the names or the links to their brands, and that's obviously distasteful. But do not hesitate to take credit when it is relevant, and make sure to drop the name when you think it is perfectly appropriate. Next slide, please. The most important and most common source of traffic, which can literally be sustained for years on end, and usually does not cost a whole lot, is search engine optimization, which could be from platforms like Google or from Bing. The secrets to success on Google, it's a multi-billion-dollar industry. Search engine optimization is a full specialization in marketing, but it need not be as difficult, especially for small businesses. And the reason for this is it all comes down to what you do to the content you have on your website. There are two parts to search engine optimization. There is technical search engine optimization, which is just jargon to say that make sure your links, your menus, and your website setup is reasonably well put together, so that the factor that Google uses to assess the search engine authority of your particular website is how easy is it for an average human to understand what it is that you're saying and what it is that you're selling. So do not overthink it. Make it as user-friendly as possible, and Google will most likely get it right. And one thing to keep in mind is local search engine optimization. And because most of you are likely located in Coquitlam, keywords, instead of just writing content that talks about bubble tea, for instance, if that's the business you are in, focus on adding keywords like Coquitlam bubble tea or Coquitlam roofing services, which will give you an edge for users who are located in that particular geographic region and searching for these keywords, even if they themselves do not add the location in what they're searching for. I've also added a few links over here to Google Search Console, which I already spoke about, and Google My Business. So Google My Business is this nifty little tool provided by Google, which lets you create an online entry for your business, mark it on the map if you have a physical location or an office, enter hours of operation, and a lot of small factors which signal to Google that you are indeed a legitimate business that's operating in a certain catchment area and which can help you drive more traffic to your website. In fact, Google My Business also gives you a place for you to enter the URL of your website once you've launched it. Next slide, please. Paid traffic, as the name suggests, this is completely a budget game, but it doesn't have to be daunting again if you are looking at a relatively narrow geographic area. You could start off with boosted posts on platforms, social media platforms like Facebook or Instagram, if your product or service is easily communicated through imagery or videos. But if it is more of a technical service, you could also choose to use paid search, which is advertising on Google search results or Bing search results. Display advertising works better for physical goods, whereas search advertising works better for services as a general rule of thumb. Setting up Google Analytics and other analytics tools for conversion tracking will help you track down users' behavior depending on whether they came from search traffic or paid traffic, and that's a useful pro tip. Next slide, please. Referral traffic. As we spoke about earlier, this is traffic that you earn because someone chose to link to you. This could be from social media platforms. It could be from a local newspaper writing a story about you. Or it could be a review, someone writing a review about you or your industry and comparing 5 different providers in whatever it is that you do. Some of the easiest ways to get referral traffic would be your local media, news media sources, like if they are looking for a quote from businesses, or your potential vendors, your partners, or directories of businesses, like maybe the Better Business Directory, which is popular in North America. Another option is to leverage your personal social network. You can do link exchanges with other folks that you know who operate businesses in related industries. But this is a pretty powerful tool for you, especially in the early days when you're just about getting started. Next slide, please. Email. I think all of us are reasonably familiar with email traffic, not to be confused with spam, which all of us suffer from too. But when done right, email marketing is among the most high ROI activities that we as marketers can do. The key is to be relatable, to be relevant, and to not pester leads or customers with too many emails, but at the same time, make sure that it's accurate, it's timely, and it's not too frequent. There are ways that you can automate it through automated triggers and drip campaigns. Some of you might have received, hey, you left something in your cart. Those are typically cases of automated emails. And there are several different scenarios in which you can set this up using some tools like the ones I've listed at the bottom of this slide, such as Campaign Monitor, MailChimp, or Constant Contact. Next slide, please. Social media. Now, as businesses, especially ones that do not already have a website, the one thing many of you are likely to have is either a Facebook page or an Instagram page. And it's perfectly logical for everyone to have social media, and it's a great source of traffic to your website as well. The key is that while you are on these platforms, they constantly tweak the algorithms, which means that your visibility, your ability to be introduced to new customers depends on the whims and fancies of these platforms, and you do not own the people that follow you, the contacts of the people that follow you, and your ability to reach them is throttled by these platforms. And that's why we recommend that you use these social media platforms definitely, but to drive traffic to your own website, where you have complete control over the data. You have the ability to reach out to all those folks who visit you. And you could use these social media platforms for advertising and to engage your users, because that's where your users are. Next slide, please. Just a quick point about offline traffic channels, and this might be curious because websites obviously are online, but the factor that many people forget is once they launch their website, they kind of forget about it. Whereas it's critical that you include your URL on all your offline activities as well, such as your brochures, your outdoor ads, if you're in a podcast, when you're networking, in your invoices, in your business cards, because your website, after all, is a part of your business, and you need to be able to look at it as one single entity that represents your business. Next slide, please. So this is a checklist that sort of summarizes the various points I've made through the several slides that came before. I'll not probably get into any of these, but there are a couple of links over here, which also helps you get a head start. For instance, if you know a competitor of yours who already has a website, these tools might help you understand what technologies that went into their website and potentially how much traffic they might be receiving. Next slide, please. Yeah, with that, we are at an end of our content for this particular presentation, and we can switch over to questions. In the meanwhile, it would be nice if we can have the slide deck with the light side offer and the link as well, which should be the next slide from you. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Karthik. And with that, I will hand it over to Eric to have a final word before we stop the recording for questions. So Eric, if you would like to unmute yourself just to have a final word and say thank you to everyone.
Thank you so much, Danielle. Thank you so much, Karthik. What a great presentation. I think we all learn certain things as we go along and listen to these, and it's one that we will be able to listen again. So again, thank you for attending, everyone. We really appreciate it. We will end this webinar, as Danielle mentioned, with a live question and answer period that will not be recorded. This is a friendly reminder that the recording of this webinar will be available shortly at letstalkcoquitlam.ca/business. Will also be emailed directly to all participants today. For further questions, please email economicdevelopment@coquitlam.ca or call 604-927-3905. And thank you again from the Economic Development team at the City of Coquitlam. And thank you again to Karthik and the team at Webnames.ca.